Yo, it's North back with a new video after my 2 years hiatus, and today we're of course going to be returning to the power scaling of My Hero Academia. This is one of my favorite series, and it is for sure one of the most popular series in where the scale of these characters' strength is vastly misunderstood by the general public. I'll be going over a few of the feats in the series, explaining them and determining whether or not this universe should be viewed lowly when it comes to how powerful the characters are, or if they are vastly underrated and should be given more respect. Now before I just jump right in and start talking feats, I have to run the field a bit and give some opinions for the more casual understanding. Now, I understand that the general portrayal of My Hero in the manga and anime are a lot different than other series. Characters are generally shown to be comparable to normal humans without their quirks, but the large magnitude of the feats expressed in the series, even without the use of quirks, makes this idea quickly fade. So here's a few. One major one to look at will be a completely quirkless Mirio throwing an unconscious man across a room and then running at and breaking Overhaul's arm with a punch in the same instant. That sounds very superhuman to me. Or how the League of Villains, all who have quirks that do not enhance their physical capabilities by the way, are able to fight with the walking mountain that is literally Gigantomachia. Mind you, this same Shigaraki who hadn't yet had his physical ability amped was able to take several attacks from Redestro, whose feats have been calculated to generate town levels of energy. It's just really bad to interpret the series in this way, especially in a shonen where, even by all logic, characters should be similar to normal humans, are blatantly not. Also, another thing I want to touch on, I want to address some weird ideas people have about power scaling. Firstly, if you don't understand in this age that AP or attack potency is not the same as destructive capacity, then the video probably isn't for you. Just keeping it a buck, it's not something that should really be up for debate in 2024. Being of a certain level, for example, city level, does not mean that you can or have destroyed a city. It is a mere category given to a specific level of energy outputted by a character's attack. Also, if you're completely against calcs, or don't believe in that kind of thing, then you should probably get over yourself. Power scaling is a fun niche, and yes, no mangaka is going to draw completely accurate representations of scenes 100% of the time. But that's not the point. No one really cares, it's all for fun at the end of the day. If that doesn't tell you, yes, I will be using calculations and stuff. And yes, calculations are fan-made, so if that upsets you, you might want to click off. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first feat. And in my opinion, this is the single most impressive feat in the series, at least at the time of writing. As far as attack potency and durability goes, this would be Shigaraki taking a direct hit from Star and Strike's fist bump to the earth, in which the mere shockwaves were capable of dispersing a massive hole in a cloud. To the casual reader, this isn't very impressive, but those who are aware of the sheer energy output necessary to split a cloud or a large portion of a cloud, much less with a punch, should know this is a great feat. So note, I will be utilizing calculations as provided by VSBW wikis. The reason for using the calculations from this wiki in particular are because they tend to have very strict regulations when it comes to accepting calcs, and thus to keep it as generous as possible and to avoid getting into the weird arguments of which calc is valid or which are better, I'll just go with the least generous and most strict standards. So the calc at hand would be calculating the fist bump to the earth, which was totaled to an energy output equivalent to a whopping 557 gigatons of TNT, making this feat a large island level feat by VSBW wiki standards. To put that into perspective, I'll give you similar calcs from other series that have energy outputs lower or about the same. Mind you, again, there can be better and more powerful calcs for these specific feats out on the web. These are just random feats I grabbed from VSBW wiki as they were readily available and open to the public. But to keep it real, in the end of the day, they were cherry picked just to make the feat look better for the sake of the video. Also, in the end of the day, who really cares? So this feat alone already puts the My Hero top tiers at about large island level. And to stick with consistency, Shigaraki has stated many times to my own dismay to be on par with a Prime All Might, but not just in one way, but in every regard physically. This was something I argued against back in the day, even in a previous video of mine, but at this point it is something that Horikoshi has time and time again drilled into the series, and it is to be taken as facts. Keep in mind that in the very first chapter, All Might, who is far out of his prime, is capable of punching away a slime villain and changing the weather. This is one of the more popular and well-known feats, and this calculation has been moved a lot over the years from city level to island level, country, and all around. But generally these days, the most accepted calc is about mountain level for this feat. Though it was stated in his fight with the USJ Nomu after delivering 300 consecutive punches that in his prime it would have only taken 5 for All Might to blow the Nomu away. This weakened All Might was also likened to Shigaraki's modified body, which would just backscale this old All Might back to Shigaraki's feat of large island level. So with weakened early series All Might at large island level, we would then add a 60-time multiplier on top of that, which would lead to Prime All Might being about country levels of power pretty comfortably, with Deku coming even above that All Might, as it has been stated multiple times. That one for all grows powerful with each user, as it does accumulate energy over time, so a full power Deku is automatically far greater than All Might. It is a bit confusing because they do kind of scale All Might and Shigaraki around to one another and in different forms, but it's fine. It even gets even better as Deku's quirk allows him to amplify his strikes even further, vastly multiplying his AP. Using his quirk Gear Shift, Deku is able to deliver a quintuple Detroit Smash, allowing him to strike 5 times nearly instantly and stacking his AP on top of itself for about large country levels of output, which completely violates Shigaraki, by the way. And if you're wondering how he does this, it's because Gear Shift, one of Deku's several quirks, allows him to change the speed at which things accelerate through space, even while ignoring the laws of inertia. It's a pretty broken ability for the universe, relative to a lot of what the series has been able to offer. But now that we're on the topic of speed, how fast are the characters? Are they below peak human level? Slower than bullets? Why don't they look that fast in the anime? Come on guys, it's 2024, travel speed isn't the same as combat speed, and animation doesn't dictate a character's power or speed. Let's take a deep into some of My Hero speed metas. Now there's old reliable light speed My Hero method that's been around since the start, and it's only since had supporting and defeating arguments stacked upon us as the readers. This is based on Aoyama's laser, and to keep things interesting, I'll blow through it a bit. Aoyama's lasers does show some things that may appear to imply the beam is some form of matter other than light, but generally speaking, it simply does just appear as light. I argued this case many times back in the day, back in the old pre-lockdown days rather, of the debate community, and a lot of the things I'm going to say here have existed for years. Aoyama's laser is consistently shown to be reflected and refracted both by metallic pipes in Hagakure's body. There's not much to the argument. It can be argued as inconsistent, as later feats possibly debunk the validity of this laser speed, but it's all about the skill to argue, so it's kind of just up for your interpretation. There's also a lot of seeming anti-feats such as bullets that give people the impression that characters being sub-bullet speed. A big one is Mirio getting hit by the quirky racing bullet. I'll keep it simple here and tell you why this does not mean Mirio or other characters are slower than bullets, at least not combat applicably. Firstly, Mirio reacts to and avoids bullets a number of times in this very same arc, and he even does so while he's nerfed by a drunk quirk that literally made him drunk. It was even stated that shooting him directly wouldn't work, so the villain purposefully shot Eri instead because he knew he wouldn't phase out of the way. Not to mention the fact that Mirio is literally diving across a large room to defend her mid-battle. It's quite literally contingent on his travel speed and not specifically his combat speed, as again he's diving across the entirety of a room. Not to mention, this is a superhero society we're talking about. Everyone has literal powers, and characters in the verse have shown time and time again to scale above bullets. So I don't see why it would be crazy to think that these bullets might just be fast. But again, I'll leave it up to interpretation, especially considering we can just look at some of the better feats of speed in the series that are directly connected to a gun. Lady Nagan is a villain Deku encounters in his quote-unquote villain arc. Her quirk grants her the ability to conjure a sniper from her arm whose bullets Deku had absolutely no issue with avoiding or even blitzing multiple times in their fight. Okay, so My Hero characters are faster than bullets. Still not very impressive, right? Yeah, I would agree, until we look at what her bullets have actually done. Let's see here. She shot Shigaraki in the hand. Okay, who cares? While he was in Hamamatsu and she was in Tokyo. What does that even mean? Oh. So yeah, this feat was calculated to be over Mach 17,000 or sub-relativistic to the speed of light. Mind you, Deku completely blitzed her bullets, which had already traveled several meters before he even began to move. And this calculation on top of that avoided calc stacking, so it presupposed that Shigaraki was a lot slower than he really would be. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that this would mean the upper tiers of My Hero are far beyond bullet speeds and even nearing the speed of light, even with the most stingy speed scaling. And yeah, just a random throw in here, it is gonna sound weird, but yes, in the second movie, 9 is physically faster than his lightning bolts, which is weird because obviously he's using natural lightning bolts to fight, but it's not like those lightning bolts were particularly very fast at the end of the movie anyway. So now that we've touched on AP and speed of the characters, what about the hacks? Honestly, a lot of the verse are extremely basic and don't really hold a candle to even newer series like JJK and Black Clover, but there are still some bangers in the verse. All for One, for example, is a culmination of several powers, but in essence, it is the power to steal powers. Let's say hypothetically you have a cross-verse fight, and in said fight the power systems are equalized. All for One or Shigaraki can easily steal the powers of an opponent and leave them completely unable to use their abilities. Of course, this is a bit of a hard argue as the way quirks work are very different from other power systems, and their unique abilities, but it's definitely an argument to be had. Another powerful one will be Gear Shift, as mentioned earlier. Deku can manipulate the speed and velocity of things, including himself, while ignoring the laws of inertia completely. Another would be the fear hacks a lot of characters have, like All Might, Stain, and Shigaraki, with All For One and Shigaraki even having a quirk that allows them to push it even further. And crazy enough, Shigaraki even has multiple layers to his fear hacks, as even people influenced by an ability that hypes up their mental state were still affected by his fear hacks. And mind you, this is his passive fear hacks. At this point, he doesn't even have a quirk that allows him to manipulate fear. Let's not forget Star and Stripes' ability, New Order, which literally gives her law manipulation. She has the ability to assign laws to anything she can touch and name. While this may not let her touch somebody like Gojo, the argument would just be about how creative you can get with a figurative controller plugged into her. Or how about Shigaraki's original ability, which lets him cause anything he touches to decay? I must say, Shigaraki's decay does not scale to himself. It is sheer hacks, and it cannot be scaled or calculated. It merely turns things to ash. I make note of this because I've seen people calculate his decay feats a lot in the past, and I've even seen people talk about how he's going to destroy Japan in a week with his decay. And I gotta say, it doesn't scale to his AP, it's just hacks. Things turning to ash through magic doesn't generate any sort of energy. There's nowhere to scale that. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there, since in the past I have talked about more of the interesting abilities that characters in the My Hero universe do have, but I do think what I've gone over should change some minds on whether or not these characters are weak or not. Hopefully I can deep dive into some of the stuff mentioned here soon in some kind of versus battle discussion. Though I appreciate you for sticking with me and watching this video. I'd appreciate it greatly if you dropped a like and subscribe to stay up to date. It's been North and I'm out. Peace.